तो ना ये जहाँ पे
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. All of you, beta, am I audible and visible to all of you? Am I audible to all of you, bacha? Good evening, everyone. Right? Chalo. So, let's start with our midwifery revision. Now, today the topics which I have to discuss with you are related to basics of pregnancy. And in basics of pregnancy, first of all, I want to talk about fertilization and implantation. So question number 1, which was asked in your NORCET exam, I want all of you to give me answers to these questions, and in questions ke basis pe, then we are going to build upon the topic and we are going to revise all the important points related to the topic. So question number 1, which of the following is a function of fallopian tube? This was asked in NORCET 2020. So which of the following is a function of fallopian tube? This is your question number 1. Tell me the answer. Question number 1. Which of the following is a function of fallopian tube? Option A, implantation. Option B, fertilization. Option C, sperm production. And option D, ovum production. So tell me, where does implantation happen? Implantation happens in the endometrium, right? Please remember, implantation always happens on one side. And that is why you get Piscasek sign. What is Piscasek sign? Piscasek sign क्या होता है? Piscasek, P-I-S-C-P-I-S-K-A, Piscasek sign. What is Piscasek sign? Piscasek sign is asymmetrical enlargement of the uterus. So asymmetrical enlargement of the uterus is called as Piscasek sign, right? And Piscasek sign, why do you get Piscasek sign? Because implantation happens on one side, right? And where does implantation happen? It happens in the endometrium. Tell me, after implantation, endometrium is called as decidua. What is endometrium called as? Endometrium is called as decidua. Okay? Now tell me, in decidua, there are 3 parts of decidua, right? So there are 3 parts of decidua. This over here is the uterine cavity. This over here is endometrium. This is myometrium, right? So we have myometrium, we have endometrium. Now I am going to mark a decidua, and you are going to tell me what decidua is this. X. Tell me, what is this X decidua? This X is what? This is decidua capsularis. Option A. Option B, decidua basalis. Option C, decidua parietalis. And option D, decidua vera. बताओ ये जो X मार्क किया है मैंने, which decidua is this decidua? Is it option A, B, C or D? Quickly tell me. Which decidua is this decidua? A, B, C or D? ये कौन सा वाला decidua है? All of you are saying this is decidua basalis and all of you are wrong. देखो बेटा, the decidua which is separating, वो decidua जो कि separate करता है blastocyst को, the decidua which separates the blastocyst, ये blastocyst है. So the decidua which is separating the blastocyst from the uterine cavity, right? This is uterine cavity. So the decidua which separates the blastocyst from the uterine cavity, this is the blastocyst, right? This is blastocyst. This decidua is called as decidua capsularis. It is like a cap on the blastocyst. Then the decidua, which is present below the blastocyst, this red color decidua which I have made, this is decidua basalis. This is decidua basalis. एंड इसके अलावा जो बाकी सारी डेसिडुआ है, रेस्ट एनीवेयर इफ दे आर पुटिंग अ मार्क, दैट इज डेसिडुआ parietalis. So a pregnant endometrium is called as decidua, right? And what is decidua capsularis? It is the decidua which separates the blastocyst from uterine cavity. What is capsularis? It separates the blastocyst from uterine cavity. ठीक है? Now, which decidua is going to take part in the formation of the placenta? Which decidua is going to take part in the formation of the placenta? Tell me quickly. Which decidua will take part in the formation of placenta? Decidua basalis forms the maternal side of placenta. Maternal side of the placenta is formed by decidua basalis. ठीक है? Clear? Okay. Now, what is the function of fallopian tube? Where does fertilization happen? Fertilization happens in the fallopian tube. So yes, it is the function of fallopian tube. Sperm का production, spermatogenesis, कहाँ पे होती है? Where does spermatogenesis happen? Spermatogenesis occurs in seminiferous tubule. Ovum ka production, where does ovum production happens? Ovum production happens in the ovary. Right? So this, for the answer to this question, that what is the function of fallopian tube? Function of fallopian tube is fertilization. Now, golden points on fertilization and implantation. What is the site for fertilization? The site for fertilization is the fallopian tube, and in the fallopian tube, it is the ampulla. Now, once fertilization happens, zygote will be formed, and this zygote will divide into 2-cell stage, 4-cell stage, 8-cell stage, and 16-cell stage. Please remember, 8 to 16 celled zygote को एक special नाम देते हैं, which is called as morula, right? So 8 to 16 celled zygote is called as morula. Now, next question, for how long does this morula stay inside the fallopian tube? Please remember, morula will stay for 3 days inside the fallopian tube, right? Then on 4th day after fertilization, it is going to enter the uterine cavity. Now, either in your options, beta, it will be written as 4th day after fertilization, or it will be written as, please remember, if this is a 28-day cycle, on day 14, ovulation happens. So 4th day after fertilization का मतलब है which day of the cycle? 18th day of the cycle. On day 18 of the cycle, morula is going to enter into the uterine cavity. And when it is going to enter into the uterine cavity, it will enter in the form of 16-celled morula. In the form of 16-celled morula, it is going to enter the uterine cavity. Now, what is the outer layer of morula called as? Please remember, morula is covered by a layer and this layer is called as morula में cells होंगे. I am not counting the number of cells, so don't say कि मैम आपने 16 नहीं बनाए. The outer layer of morula is called as zona pellucida. Who is going to tell me what is the function of zona pellucida? What is the function of zona pellucida? What is the function of zona pellucida? What is the function, beta? Anyone can tell me what's the function of zona pellucida? Beta Nitish, पहले बताओ function of zona pellucida. Function of zona pellucida, yes, this is a live class, Vishal. Function of zona pellucida is to prevent polyspermy. It prevents polyspermy. Once a single sperm enters into the ova, it does not allow other sperms to enter. Zona is lost on. Zona is lost on, जिसको हम कहते हैं zona hatching. Zona is lost on 5th day after fertilization. 5th day after fertilization, there is going to be zona hatching. Now, important points on implantation. Please remember, implantation occurs in the form of blastocyst. Once a morula is going to enter into the uterus, some fluid enters into the morula. थोड़ा fluid आ जाएगा morula के अंदर, and जब भी fluid आता है, you start calling it as a cyst. So implantation is going to happen in the form of blastocyst. Next question जो वो आपसे implantation पे पूछ सकते हैं, that is implantation begins. Please remember, implantation begins 6 days after fertilization. 6 days after fertilization का मतलब, what do you mean by 6 days after fertilization? 6 days after fertilization means day 20 of the cycle. So either in the options, it will be written as 6 days after fertilization, or it will be written as day 20 of the cycle. Tell me, implantation is complete by, when is the process of implantation complete? Implantation is complete by 10 days after fertilization. It is complete by 10 days after fertilization. Next important point, what is the most common site for implantation? Most common site for implantation is posterior wall of the upper part of the uterus. Do not say fundus, just posterior part of the upper part, posterior wall of the upper part of the uterus, right? Now, at the time of implantation, some females are going to have bleeding, and that is what is called as Hartmann sign. Hartmann sign के अलावा दूसरा नाम क्या होता है इसका? Placental sign, right? These are the important points which you needed to know on fertilization and implantation, right? Now, next question. Question number 2. Again, this is a question from your NORCET exam. Find out the right statement regarding fallopian tube. Option A, it has 3 parts. Option B, it is lined by columnar non-ciliated epithelium. Option C, it is also known as living ligature. Option D, PEG cells are found in fallopian tube. So tell us, tell me what is the right answer, A, B, C or D? Most of you have started answering and you all are saying correct answer is D. देखो बच्चा, it's not always necessary, or it is not just necessary that you know the right answer. You should also know why not the other options are incorrect, right? So tell me, fallopian tube has 3 parts. Is it a true statement or false statement? It's a false statement. Why? Because fallopian tube will have 4 parts. What are the parts of the fallopian tube from medial to lateral? What are the parts of the fallopian tube from medial to lateral? चलो अब जल्दी से इस क्वेश्चन का आंसर बताओ. This is one part, second part, third part and fourth part. सबसे पहले बताओ the green colored part, ये जो medial most part है, what part is this? So what are the parts of the fallopian tube from medial to lateral? So number one is interstitium. Very good, Nandini. Number one, interstitium, which is also called as intramural part. Then the purple colored part which I have made is isthmus. Then we have ampulla. And then we have infundibulum. Infundibulum. Right? So the four parts are interstitium or the intramural part, isthmus, ampulla, and infundibulum. What is the length of the fallopian tube? Length of the fallopian tube is 10 to 12 centimeters. From where is fallopian tube derived? Fallopian tube is derived from which part? Fallopian tube किससे बनती है? Fallopian tube is derived from. Tell me quickly the answer to this question. अब next question पे बताओ मुझे fallopian tube is derived from. I want an answer to this question. Excellent, Madhusmita. Fallopian tube is derived from Mullerian duct. Fallopian tube is derived from Mullerian duct. Please remember Mullerian duct in females. कौन कौन से पार्ट बनाते हैं? Mullerian duct बनाता है fallopian tube, uterus, cervix and upper part of vagina. Right? So fallopian tube is derived from Mullerian duct. What is the lining of fallopian tube? Lining of fallopian tube is ciliated columnar epithelium. Ciliated columnar epithelium. I want all of you to quickly make a chart. Quickly, I want you to make a table. Write down part of female genital tract and then write down its lining. Right? So, fallopian tube. Fallopian tube किससे बनता है? Fallopian tube is lined by ciliated columnar epithelium. Right? Please remember, fallopian tube has got PEG cells whose function we don't know. Then we have uterus. Uterus is lined by columnar epithelium. Then we have cervix. Cervix has two parts. One is endocervix and the other one is exocervix. Endocervix is lined by columnar epithelium. Exocervix is lined by stratified squamous epithelium. Similarly, vagina is lined by stratified squamous epithelium. Ureter is lined by transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium. ठीक है? So these are the questions which they can ask you on lining of the female genital tract. Right? Now, next over here they had given that fallopian tube is lined by columnar non-ciliated epithelium. That's wrong. Fallopian tube is called as living ligature. Again, wrong statement. What is called as living ligature? What is called as living ligature? What is called as living ligature? please remember the middle layer of myometrium. Middle layer of excellent Madhusmita. Middle layer of myometrium is called as living ligature because it has got fibers which run in a crisscross manner. It has fibers which run in a crisscross manner and there are blood vessels in between. So जब भी uterus contract करता है, because the fibers contract, तो जो blood vessels उनके बीच में से जा रहे होते हैं, they constrict and that prevents blood loss. Excellent, Rasna. You can write that ovary is lined by germinal epithelium. Very good. Now, in case of fallopian tube, please remember a few important points about the parts. Intramural part, please remember, intramural part is the narrowest part of the fallopian tube. It is called as anatomical sphincter. When it comes to isthmus, please remember, isthmus is the second narrowest part of the fallopian tube. All these are from the golden points which have been given to you by NNL. These tables are from the golden points of NNL. So isthmus is the second narrowest part and it is called as physiological sphincter. जब भी हम tubal ligation करते हैं, the isthmus is cut. Now, there is a technique of tubal ligation जिसमें आप ट्यूब्स में जो isthmus part है उसमें एक लूप बनाते हो. उस लूप का जो बेस है उसको कैटगट से टाई करते हो एंड उसके बाद जो लूप है उसको कट कर देते हो. सो आपने फेलोपियन ट्यूब का एक लूप बनाया, लूप को नीचे कैटगट से टाई किया एंड फिर उसके बाद लूप को कट कर दिया. व्हाट इज दिस टेक्निक कॉल्ड एज? दिस टेक्निक, excellent Swagat, it is called as Pomeroy's technique. Pomeroy's technique, right? So they can show you an image of Pomeroy's technique and they can ask you this question, right? Now, ampulla is the third part in the fallopian tube. Please remember, it is the widest part of the fallopian tube. The widest part of the fallopian tube is ampulla. Widest part of the fallopian tube is ampulla, right? It is the widest part. Fertilization happens in the ampulla. Ectopic pregnancy ki most common site is ampulla and it is the most common site for genital TB, right? And then comes the infundibulum. Infundibulum has got fibria. Now I want all of you to know that when you are doing tubal ligation, there are three tube-like structures which are attached to the cornua of the uterus. This is called as cornua or the angle of the uterus. At the angle of the uterus, there are three tube-like structures which are present. What are the three tube-like structures which are present? Three tube-like structures present at the cornua. What are they? So we have three tube-like structures present like this. This is round ligament. Then we have fallopian tube and then we have ovarian ligament. So from anterior to posterior, it is RTO, round ligament, fallopian tube and ovarian ligament. Okay, these are three tube-like structures which are present at the angle of the fallopian tube. Clear to all of you? Right. Now, next important question is related to calculation of EDD. Now, I'm asking you, suppose you have to calculate EDD of a G2P1 female with LMP 27th December 2021. Right, calculate the EDD. Calculate EDD. Yes, beta, Madhusmita. That is why failure of tubal ligation ka most common causes identification of wrong structures. So many times we do not identify the right fallopian tube, that this is the fallopian tube, and instead of ligating the fallopian tube, we ligate the round ligament. Now tell me, calculate the EDD of a G2P1 female with LMP 27th December 2021. Now, whenever you have to calculate EDD, please remember EDD is calculated by using Negley's formula. In the Negley's formula, to the first day of the LMP, you have to add 7 days. To the first day of the last menstrual period, you have to add 7 days and 9 months, and that is what is going to give you the EDD. 7 days plus 9 months. Now, a simple trick which I want all of you to remember is that always add 7 days first and then you have to add 9 months, right? Please remember that. Always add 7 days first and then 9 months. Why? For example, this case. In this case, when you are going to add 7 days, 27th December May, let us add 7 days. 28th December, 29th December, 30th December, 31st December. 1st Jan, 2nd Jan, 3rd Jan. Right? फिर से देख लो. 28th December, 29th December, 30th December, 31st December, 1st Jan, 2nd Jan, 3rd Jan. अब हम पहुंच गए, जैसे ही हमने 7 डेज ऐड किया, हम आ गए 3rd जनवरी पे. अब 3rd जनवरी में हमें 9 मंथ्स ऐड करने हैं. तो जैन में जब हम 9 मंथ्स ऐड करेंगे तो फेब, मार्च, अप्रैल, मई, जून, जुलाई, अगस्त, सितंबर, अक्टूबर. तो क्या आ गया? 3rd अक्टूबर. सो द ईडीडी बिकम्स 3rd अक्टूबर. अगर आप इसमें 7 डेज पहले ऐड नहीं करते हो तो आप में से बहुत सारे लोग वही मिस्टेक करेंगे एंड बहुत सारे लोग आंसर कर रहे हैं 3rd सितंबर. Why? Because आपने दिसंबर में 9 मंथ्स ऐड कर लिए. पहले 7 डेज ऐड करो. When you will add 7 days, you will come to 3rd January and then add 9 months. Are you understanding? That is why many of you are getting the answer wrong. And that is why I always tell, always add 7 days first and then 9 months. An exception to this rule is, अगर LMP आती है in the month of Feb, अगर LMP in the month of Feb आ रही है, right? In that case, you will have to add first 9 months and then 7 days. Add first 9 months and then 7 days. For example, if I say a patient's LMP was 24th Feb 2022. Calculate the patient's EDD. A patient's LMP is 24th Feb 2024. 2022 nahi, 2024. Calculate her EDD. Tell me what her EDD is. 24th Feb is her LMP. Gynae remaining and Nirmita, I will complete it. Tell me, 24th Feb 2024 is the LMP. You have to calculate the EDD. So I'm getting different answers. कोई कह रहा है 1st December, कोई कह रहा है 1st November, कोई कह रहा है 31st November, 3rd November. कितने आंसर्स दे रहे हो तुम लोग? So many different answers I am getting. चलो, let's calculate. As I said, whenever LMP is in Feb, you have to first add 9 months. तो फेब में जब हम 9 मंथ्स ऐड करेंगे तो मार्च, अप्रैल, मई, जून, जुलाई, अगस्त, सितंबर, अक्टूबर, नवंबर, यानी कि हम आ गए 24th नवंबर पे. अब 24th नवंबर में you have to add 7 days. तो 25th नवंबर, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30th नवंबर में 30 days होते हैं, and then 1st. So you come to 1st December. Have you understood? All of you? समझ में आया सबको? जब भी बहुतों के आंसर गलत आ रहे हैं मेरे पास, जब भी एलएमपी नवंबर, जब भी एलएमपी फेब में होगी, whenever LMP is in the month of Feb, first add 9 months to Feb. जैसे ही आप फेब में 9 months ऐड करते हो, you come to November. So 24th Feb था, so you come to 24th November. 24th नवंबर में अब 7 days ऐड करो. मार्च, अप्रैल, मई, जून, जुलाई, अगस्त, सितंबर, अक्टूबर, नवंबर आया ना बेटा, तो 24th नवंबर. अब 24th नवंबर में ऐड 7 days. तो 28th नवंबर, 29th नवंबर, 30th नवंबर, sorry, 25th November, 26th November, 27th November, 28th November, 29th November, 30th November and 1st December. कभी भी अगर लीप ईयर भी है तो भी हमें कुछ नहीं ध्यान देना है. हमेशा फेब में you are going to consider as 28 days. फेब में you don't have to consider anything other than 28 days. 2nd December कैसे होगा बेटा? अभी तो बताया. नवंबर है ना, तो 25th, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30th. 30th November and then 1st December, 7 days. Is that clear to all of you? Yes? Have you all understood how to calculate EDD अगर LMP Feb में है तो? बाकी everywhere it is 7 days first and then 9 months. Only in the month of Feb you have to add 9 months first and then 7 days. Right? We are assuming that the cycle is of 28 days. Every time we are calculating EDD, we are assuming that the cycle is of 28 days. ठीक? Okay. Now, what percentage of females deliver on their exact EDD? What percentage of females deliver on their exact EDD? 4% females deliver on their exact EDD, right? 50% females, they deliver either 1 week before or 1 week after their EDD. Beta, please understand, you would never consider कि Feb में leap year होता है. Leap year is not to be considered. Is that clear? Okay. Now, conditions where you cannot use Negley's formula to calculate EDD. What are those conditions where you cannot use Negley's formula to calculate EDD? Number one, if the cycles of the patient are irregular. If the female says that she had irregular cycles. Number two, if the female was on OCPs before conceiving. Before conceiving, if she was on OCPs. Number three, if female was breastfeeding when she conceived, right? And number four, if the female is unsure about her LMP. If female is unsure about LMP. In these conditions, I cannot use Negley's formula, right? In these cases, what am I going to do the next step? In these cases, in order to know the EDD, I am going to do ultrasound. What am I going to do? Ultrasound. And on ultrasound, I am going to measure crown rump length. Crown rump length को short में कहते हैं CRL. So based on crown rump length, then I am going to tell EDD to the patient. Now suppose you are there sitting in gynae OPD. A female comes to you with an ultrasound. She has twin pregnancies, right? एक बेबी बड़ा है, एक बेबी छोटा है. एक बेबी के हिसाब से ईडीडी, बड़े बेबी के हिसाब से ईडीडी डिफरेंट आ रही है, छोटे बेबी के हिसाब से ईडीडी डिफरेंट आ रहा है. So that female asks you that please tell me which EDD should I be taking into consideration. So my question to you is, in twin pregnancies, if both the twins are not same size, not same gestation, one is bigger twin, another one is smaller twin, which happens so many times, and EDD is different based on the bigger twin and based on smaller twin. हमें कौन सी वाली ईडीडी को कंसिडर करना है, बिगर ट्विन वाली या स्मॉलर ट्विन वाली? ऑलवेज इन ट्विन्स, always EDD is calculated. EDD should be calculated based on the larger twin. हमेशा EDD calculation में you have to take into consideration larger twin. Next question. Next question is, a 30-year woman was on OCPs for the past 6 months. She presents to you with amenorrhea. What would be the best method of assessing gestational age of the fetus in this patient? So this patient was on OCPs for past 6 months. What is the best method for assessing gestational age in this patient? As I told you, if patient is on OCPs before conceiving, then you have to go for ultrasound, and on ultrasound, you have to measure crown rump length, right? So the answer over here is option A. Excellent. Now, what is the total duration of pregnancy? Please remember, total duration of pregnancy in terms of months is 9 months plus 7 days. In terms of weeks, it is 40 weeks. And in terms of days, it is 280 days. Some important definitions which you should be knowing. How do you define preterm delivery? How do you define preterm delivery? So what is preterm labor? Preterm labor is any delivery which occurs between 20 weeks to less than 37 weeks. So any delivery which is happening at less than 37 weeks, after 20 weeks and before 37 weeks, that is what is called as preterm labor, right? What is preterm labor? Any delivery which is happening between 20 weeks to 37 weeks is preterm labor. Take? Okay. Then, in case of preterm labor, what is the drug of choice? Drug of choice to accelerate the lung maturity of the fetus. What is the drug of choice to accelerate lung maturity of the fetus? Batao preterm labor mein, what is the drug of choice to accelerate lung maturity of the fetus? Which drug do you give to accelerate lung maturity? Corticosteroid, very good. Which corticosteroid? Dexamethasone. In India, we are giving dexamethasone. Very, very important is, what is the dose of dexamethasone? How are you going to give dexamethasone? Tell me quickly. What dose are you going to give? कितने injections dexamethasone के? 4 injections. Right? कितने mg के? 4 injections. This is something which I told you. 4 injections. कितने mg के? 6 mg. Very good. Interval कितने interval पे? At intervals of 12 hours. Very good. How do you have to give it? You have to give it IM. Then we have betamethasone. What is the dose of betamethasone? How many injections? 2 injections. कितने दोगे? 12 mg. 24 hours apart. 2 injections, 12 mg, 24 hours apart. Right? Now, what is a contraindication and what are the indications for giving steroids? In which condition do you not give corticosteroids? In which condition is corticosteroid injection contraindicated? Tell me. In which condition is corticosteroid injection contraindicated? Jaldi se answer batao. Excellent, Shubha Lakshmi Pandey. It is chorioamnionitis. Please do not mark diabetes as the answer. Diabetic patients में corticosteroid is not contraindicated. The only contraindication is chorioamnionitis. What is the indication for giving corticosteroid? It is given in all patients of preterm labor, whether they are less than 34 weeks or whether they are more than 34 weeks. कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. हर patient of preterm labor में I have to give corticosteroids. Difference क्या है? अगर preterm labor हो रहा है at less than 34 weeks में, तो corticosteroid के साथ I have to add tocolytic. And अगर preterm labor हो रहा है more than 34 weeks में, then I have to give only corticosteroid. Are you understanding? अगर preterm labor हो रहा है less than 34 weeks में, तो हमें corticosteroid के साथ I have to give tocolytic. And अगर preterm labor हो रहा है more than 34 weeks पे, then in that case I have to give only corticosteroid. Clear to all of you? Yes? Okay. Now, coming to term pregnancy. How do you define term pregnancy? Any pregnancy where delivery is happening between 37 weeks to 41 weeks plus 6 days. So any delivery which is happening between 37 weeks to 41 weeks plus 6 days is term pregnancy. When we talk about early term, what is early term? Any delivery which is happening between 37 weeks to 38 weeks plus 6 days. What is full term? Any delivery which is happening between 39 weeks to 40 weeks plus 6 days. And what is late term? Any delivery which is happening between 41 weeks to 41 weeks plus 6 days. Please understand, early term and preterm अलग-अलग चीजें. Preterm का मतलब है कि any delivery which is happening at less than 37 weeks. Early term का मतलब है any delivery which is happening between 37 weeks to 38 weeks plus 6 days. Similarly, late term and post term में बहुत difference है. What do you understand by post term? Post-term delivery means any delivery which is happening at more than equal to 42 weeks. That is post-term delivery, right? Which is 294 days. Any delivery which is happening at more than equal to 294 days is post-term pregnancy. What is late term? Any delivery which is happening between 41 weeks to 41 weeks plus 6 days. Okay? Now, what is abortion? Any pregnancy which ends at less than 20 weeks is abortion. And if death of the fetus is happening at more than equal to 20 weeks, that is intrauterine death of the fetus. Okay? Now, I want all of you to answer a few questions for me. First question, as I said, if there is a female who has preterm labor at less than 34 weeks, what is the management? Less than 34 weeks पे अगर preterm labor हो रहा है, you have to give corticosteroids, you have to give tocolytics, plus you have to give magnesium sulfate. Magnesium sulfate is given if preterm labor happens at less than 32 weeks, then you give magnesium sulfate. Magnesium sulfate is given for neuroprotection. तो जब भी प्रीटर्म डिलीवरी हो रही है लेस देन 32 वीक्स पे यू हैव टू ऐड मैग्नीशियम सल्फेट. Please remember there is no role of antibiotics. Preterm labor में there is no role of antibiotics. There is no role of induction of labor. I am not going to induce labor. राइट अपने आप से पेशेंट प्रीटर्म लेबर से प्रीटर्म बर्थ की तरफ चली जाए, दैट्स ओके. आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू इंड्यूस लेबर. राइट नाउ इफ प्रीटर्म लेबर इज हैपनिंग एट more than equal to 34 weeks, in that case what is the management? In that case I have to give corticosteroids, no tocolytics, no magnesium sulfate, no antibiotic, no induction of labor, just plain simple corticosteroids. Clear to all of you? Yes. Next question. What is the tocolytic of choice in India? What is the tocolytic of choice in India? Tocolytic of choice in India is nifedipine. Right? What is the tocolytic of choice in heart disease patients? In heart disease patients, tocolytic of choice is atosiban. Atosiban is oxytocin antagonist. Right? Please remember endomethacin can be used as tocolytic. It can be used as tocolytic. Endomethacin का साइड इफेक्ट क्या होता है? एंडोमेट्रिसिन का साइड इफेक्ट होता है इट लीड्स टू प्रीमेच्योर क्लोजर ऑफ डक्टस आर्टेरियोसिस. very important question. It leads to premature closure of ductus arteriosus. Beta agonist can also be used as tocolytics, but उनके साइड इफेक्ट्स क्या होते हैं? उनके साइड इफेक्ट बीटा एगोनिस्ट के साइड इफेक्ट होते हैं ट्रेमर्स, hyperglycemia, so they lead to increase in glucose, and they can lead to pulmonary edema. Right? Please remember progesterone. Progesterone is not a tocolytic. Progesterone is not a tocolytic. Right? Magnesium sulfate is a tocolytic, but not used for this purpose. But not used for this purpose. Clear to all of you? So yes, magnesium sulfate is a tocolytic, but it is not used for this purpose. Progesterone is not a tocolytic. Next important point. In case of post-term labor, in case of post-term pregnancy or post-term labor, what is the color of amniotic fluid? What is the color of amniotic fluid in case of post-term labor? What is the color? It is, tell me quickly, what is the color? It is yellowish green or saffron colored. yellowish green in color. What happens to the volume of amniotic fluid? When is the volume of amniotic fluid maximum? When is the volume of amniotic fluid maximum? So when is the volume of amniotic fluid maximum? Tell me. It is between 32 to 34 weeks. At that time, it is 1 liter. By the time a female reaches term pregnancy, it is 800 ml. And by the time patient reaches 42 weeks, it is drastically reduced to 200 ml. So in post-term pregnancies, the amniotic fluid is decreased. Because amniotic fluid is decreased in post-term pregnancy, that is why there can be cord compression. The cord of the baby can get compressed. Because of cord compression, there can be fetal distress. Whenever there is fetal distress, fetus is going to pass meconium into the amniotic fluid. And we all know कि fetus swallow भी करता है amniotic fluid को. तो जब fetal distress होगा and fetus amniotic fluid में meconium डालेगा and same amniotic fluid को पिएगा, तो it can lead to meconium aspiration syndrome. Right? Then another thing which is happening in post-term pregnancy is there is increased birth weight of the baby. If birth weight of the baby becomes more than equal to 4 kgs, that is what is called as macrosomia. And macrosomia can lead to shoulder dystocia. So, question is that if a female, pregnant female, comes to you with saying, a pregnant female comes to antenatal clinic and she says that she is 42 weeks pregnant, what is the next step? What is the next step? Whenever a pregnant female comes to antenatal clinic and she is saying that she's 42 weeks pregnant, what is the next step? Next step is you have to first confirm that she is 42 weeks pregnant. That you are going to do by reviewing her menstrual history. Very, very important question. Recheck her menstrual calculations, review her menstrual history. On reviewing her menstrual history, if I confirm that yes, my patient is more than equal to 42 weeks pregnant, please remember, in that case, you have to go for induction of labor. Right? You have to go for induction of labor. But before you do induction of labor, you also have to do NST in the patient. So you should do an NST and this should be followed non-stress test and then this should be followed by induction of labor. Okay? Clear to all of you? Now, which congenital anomaly leads to post-term labor? Which congenital anomaly can lead to post-term labor? Which congenital anomaly can lead to post-term labor? Anencephaly. In other words, neural tube defects. Neural tube defects can lead to post-term labor. A few important points related to IUD. Tell me, what is the color of amniotic fluid in case of IUD? What is the color of amniotic fluid in case of IUD? बताओ. Tell me, what is the color of amniotic fluid in case of IUD? It is which color? कौन सा कलर का होता है in case of intrauterine death? Excellent. Tobacco juice color. Right? Now, a patient of IUD is going to complain of absent fetal movements. Right? There will be absent fetal movements. Now, what is the first sign of IUD on ultrasound या on X-ray? What is the first sign of IUD on ultrasound or X-ray? What is the first sign of IUD on ultrasound or X-ray? First sign of IUD on ultrasound or X-ray is Robert sign. What do you mean by Robert sign? Robert sign means gas will be present in the great vessels. Excellent, all of you who are saying Robert sign. Then you are going to get Spalding sign. What is Spalding sign? Spalding sign is overlapping of the skull bones of the fetus. And then you are going to get a third sign. And what is that third sign? Ball sign. What is ball sign? Ball sign is hyperflexion or hyperextension of the fetus. Right? So Robert sign, Spalding sign, and ball sign. These are the signs of IUD. Clear? Okay. Next question is coming to obstetrical score. All of the following are statements true for parity except, right? So all of you know in obstetrical score, we have to calculate gravida and parity. So you are going to tell me all of the statements are true for parity except. Parity refers to the number of pregnancy reaching viability, yes or no? What does parity means? Yes, parity is the number of pregnancies which reach the period of viability. What is the period of viability in India? In India, period of viability is 28 weeks. So yes, option A is correct. In twin pregnancy, parity remains the same? Yes. In twin pregnancy, parity is the same. If a female has stillbirth, her parity decreases. ये कैसे हो सकता है बेटा? What do you understand by stillbirth? Stillbirth means that at the time of delivery, when the fetus is dying, that is stillbirth. And I am telling you कि parity में any pregnancy beyond 28 weeks has to be calculated in parity. तो stillbirth को हमेशा count करते हैं parity में, right? So if a female has stillbirth, how can her parity decrease? That's a wrong statement. Parity is to be affected by number of fetuses delivered. देखो, parity is affected by the number of fetuses delivered. To some extent, this is right. Why? Because parity में आता है number of living children. Yes, when we are calculating number of living children, yes, parity is affected by the number of fetuses which are delivered. Option C is absolutely wrong. That if a female has stillbirth, her parity decreases. Absolutely nonsense. Her parity is going to increase. You will count stillbirth in parity. Are you all understanding this? Stillbirth को parity में count करते हैं. Because parity means that if a fetus is dying during the process of delivery, right? Okay. So what is gravida? Gravida is total number of time a female becomes pregnant, irrespective of the outcome of the pregnancy, number one. Number two, in gravida, present pregnancy has to be calculated. Now, when I am saying कि gravida means number of time a female becomes pregnant, अब चाहे वो प्रेगनेंसी अबॉर्ट हुई हो, चाहे वो प्रेगनेंसी एक्टोपिक प्रेगनेंसी में कन्वर्ट हुई हो, चाहे वो प्रेगनेंसी मोलर प्रेगनेंसी हो, चाहे इंट्रा यूट्राइन डेथ हो, every pregnancy has to be counted in gravida, right? Please remember, twins are always taken as single pregnancy when you are counting gravida, right? Coming to parity, I will tell everything, don't worry. Parity. Parity is the number of previous pregnancies. This word previous is very important. Parity is the number of previous pregnancies which have gone beyond the period of viability. And as I told you, period of viability in India is 28 weeks, right? Please remember, current pregnancy is never to be calculated in parity. In parity, I will never ever calculate or never ever count present pregnancy. Now, in parity, again, twins and triplets are counted as one, except at that place where we are counting the number of living children. Wherever we are counting number of living children, their twins will be counted as 2 and triplets will be counted as 3. Everywhere else, twins and triplets are counted as single number, right? Now, I will be taking up all examples of gravida and parity. First, let us discuss who is an elderly primate. Elderly primate means any female who becomes pregnant for the first time, and if her age is more than equal to 35 years. So any female whose age is more than equal to 35 years and she's becoming pregnant for the first time, that female is called as elderly primate. Who is a grand multipara? A grand multipara is a female who has given birth more than equal to 5 times. Right? नहीं बेटा, दीपशिखा, प्रेजेंट प्रेगनेंसी कभी भी पैरिटी में काउंट नहीं होती है. चाहे वो इवन मोर देन 28 वीक्स हो, तब भी आप उसको कभी भी काउंट नहीं करते हो पैरिटी में, राइट? Who is a multipara? Grand multipara is a female who has given birth more than equal to 5 times. Multipara is a female who has given birth more than equal to 2 times. So multipara is a female who has given birth to more than equal to 2 times. Clear to all of you? Yes? Now, what are the methods of writing gravida and parity? When the first method of writing gravida and parity is where gravida is represented by a single number and parity is represented by a single number. Whenever gravida is represented by a single number, उसके आगे gravida ही आएगा and parity के आगे parity ही आता है. Right? Sometimes you are going to see that in gravida and parity, in front of parity, 2 numbers are written. If in front of parity, 2 numbers are written, gravida के आगे हमेशा it is gravida. अगर parity के आगे 2 numbers लिखे हैं, then the first number stands for parity and second number stands for number of abortions. Second number stands for number of abortions. When we are saying number of abortions का मतलब है any pregnancy loss which occurs before 20 weeks. Any pregnancy loss which is happening before 20 weeks is called as abortion. That could be ectopic, that could be molar pregnancy, or it can be abortion. कुछ भी हो. Any pregnancy loss which is happening at less than 20 weeks is abortions. Right? Okay. So now there was a question which came in NEET PG and I'm sure you will be able to do it. And this question is likely to come in your exams also. A pregnant woman comes to the clinic. She already has twins by normal delivery. What is her obstetrical score? A pregnant woman comes to the clinic. She already has twins by normal delivery. What is her obstetric score? Batao. A, B, C or D? I have started getting your answers. Okay. और आंसर्स चाहिए अभी मुझे. So the choice is between A and C. More votes are going for A, some of them for C. अच्छा देखो. This female is pregnant abhi and she has previous history of twin pregnancy. So कितने times वो pregnant, कितने times उसने conceive किया? एक बार पहले conceive किया जब twins हुए और एक बार अब conceive किया. As I told you, in gravida, present pregnancy has to be calculated. So her gravida becomes G2. What is a parity? Parity is the number of previous pregnancies which have gone beyond the period of viability. Present pregnancy is never counted in parity. And her previous pregnancies were twin pregnancies. And I told you always twins is counted as single. Right? So G2, P1. Have you all understood? Please do not count present pregnancy in parity. Clear? So answer is G2, P1. Now, another method and the latest method of writing gravida and parity is where gravida is represented by a single number, but parity is represented by 4 numbers. When parity is represented by 4 numbers, the first number is the number of term deliveries. Number of term deliveries का क्या मतलब है? Number of term deliveries का मतलब है any delivery which is happening between 37 weeks to 41 weeks plus 6 days. जो second number होता है, second number is the number of preterm deliveries. Preterm deliveries are any delivery which is happening between 20 weeks to 36 weeks plus 6 days. Any delivery happening between 20 weeks to 36 weeks plus 6 days. That is preterm delivery. Then comes the third number. Third number is the number of abortions or any pregnancy loss which is happening at less than 20 weeks. And fourth number is the number of living children at present. This is GT-PAL system. GT-PAL system. In GT-PAL system, G is gravida, T is number of term pregnancies, P is number of preterm deliveries. Please remember, P is not parity. Right? P is not parity. Over here, P is number of preterm deliveries. A stands for abortions and L stands for number of living children at present. Clear to all of you? So now I want all of you to calculate obstetrical score of a pregnant female who has come to you at 30 weeks of pregnancy for her first antenatal visit. Her obstetrical history is significant for a son 5 years old at 38 weeks. History of stillbirth 3 years ago at 30 weeks. Twin daughters born preterm at 32 weeks 2 years ago. And 1 ectopic pregnancy. Right? Her obstetrical score is. अब जल्दी से बताओ her obstetrical score. Options are given to you A, B, C, and D. बताओ A, B, C और D. Blur आ रहा है. Isha, I will explain G to P1 again. First answer this question and then I will explain G to P1 again. टेल मी क्विकली. अभी आई हैव गॉट 2 आंसर्स, 3 आंसर्स. 2 लोग ए कह रहे हैं, 2 लोग बी कह रहे हैं. आई विल एक्सप्लेन विद द क्वेश्चन. पहले आने तो दो, तुम लोग के आंसर्स आने दो. कविता सिंह ए, प्रतीक्षा ए, शीतल ए, जानवी ए, आयुषी ए, Drashti B. So many of you are saying A, some of you are confused between A and B. So जब भी ऐसा क्वेश्चन आए, सबसे पहले तो हम सारी इंफॉर्मेशन लिखेंगे. A female is pregnant at 30 weeks of pregnancy. यानी कि अभी वो प्रेग्नेंट है. She has history of a son. This son was born at 38 weeks and अभी भी वो alive है. Right? Then she has history of stillbirth. Stillbirth happened at 30 weeks. Then she has history of twin daughters. Twin daughters happened at 32 weeks and they are alive. And then she has history of ectopic pregnancy. This is her 5th pregnancy. Right? She is presently pregnant. So I am going to count her as G5. सारे ऑप्शंस में G5 थी है. Now comes number of term deliveries. Term delivery is any delivery which is happening after 37 weeks. So term delivery में उसका एक सन है, उसके अलावा कोई भी term delivery नहीं है. तो term deliveries is 1. Then comes number of preterm deliveries. Preterm deliveries कितनी हुई? एक stillbirth है preterm और एक twin daughters है. As I told you, parity में everywhere twins is counted as 1, triplets is counted as 1, except when you are counting number of living children. So stillbirth and twin दोनों preterm हुए. Stillbirth 30 weeks पे हुआ तो इसीलिए and daughters preterm हुई तो उनको भी preterm में count करेंगे. Then number of abortions. Number of abortion नहीं हुए लेकिन ectopic pregnancy हुआ 1. Right? Then comes the number of living children. अभी उसके पास कितने living children है? He has 1 son and 2 twin daughters. That is 3. So answer क्या हो गया? G5 P1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3. That means answer is option A. समझ में आया सबको? सबको समझ में आ गया? All of you? Yes? G5 P1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3. Is it clear to all of you? Yes? Okay. Yes, now if I go back to this example, which says that there is a female who has previous history of twin pregnancies and presently she is pregnant. And I say कि उसकी जो previous twins हुए थे, वो हुए थे 36 weeks पे. 36 weeks पे previous twins हुए थे उसके. Now I tell you to write her gravida and parity. So as I said, gravida and parity में, because she is second time pregnant, she will be G2. And parity में present pregnancy is never counted. So parity has to be only previous pregnancy which went beyond the period of viability. So her twin pregnancy had gone beyond the period of viability. Twins are always counted as 1 in parity, right? So she is G2 P1. अब इसी को if I ask you कि मुझे सेकंड तरीके से बताओ जहां पे पैरिटी के आगे 2 नंबर्स लिखे होते हैं. जब भी पैरिटी के आगे 2 नंबर लिखे होते हैं तो फर्स्ट नंबर पैरिटी बताता है, सेकंड नंबर नंबर ऑफ अबॉर्शंस बताता है. बेटा क्या रिपीट करना है मुझे बताओ. व्हाट डू आई हैव टू, हाउ टू काउंट ट्विंस इन लाइव चिल्ड्रन? बेटा ये तो तुम बताओ ना. उसके 2 बच्चे हैं, जिंदा है तो उनको 2 काउंट करोगे ना यार. ट्विंस में जब हम नंबर ऑफ लिविंग चिल्ड्रन बोल रहे हैं, नंबर ऑफ लिविंग चिल्ड्रन में ट्विंस इज ऑलवेज काउंटेड एज 2 and triplets is always counted as 3. दो बच्चे हमें दिख रहे हैं कि ट्विन्स हैं और तुम्हें केवल काउंट करके बताना है, तो you will count it as 2 ना. Always number of living children में twins will be counted as 2 and triplets will be counted as 3. Write down यहाँ पे अगर भूल रहे हो तो. In number of living children, GTPAL system में in the number of living children, twins is counted as 2 and triplets is counted as 3. ठीक है? Okay. Now, I am coming to that previous example. Previous example में, now I am saying I want to write gravida and parity, जिसमें parity के आगे 2 numbers लिखे हो. जब भी parity के आगे 2 number होते हैं, तो first number is parity and second number is the number of abortion. इस case में there has been no abortion. So you are going to write it as G2P1 plus 0. अब इसी को अगर मैं तुमसे कहूं कि GTPAL में लिख के दिखाओ मुझे, GTPAL में सेम एग्जांपल लिख के दिखाओ, तो GTPAL में ग्रेविडा तो 2 ही रहेगा. नंबर ऑफ टर्म डिलीवरीज, आई एम टेलिंग यू ये ट्विंस की डिलीवरी हुई 36 वीक्स पे, तो नंबर ऑफ टर्म डिलीवरीज 0, नंबर ऑफ प्री टर्म डिलीवरीज 1, नंबर ऑफ अबॉर्शंस 0, number of living children में twins is always counted as 2. तो इसी चीज को जब GTPAL में लिखना होगा, I will write it as G2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 0 plus 2. Right? That is how I will write. G2 and parity में 0 plus 1 plus 0 plus 2. Right? That is how you've written the same thing in GTPAL system. Have you understood, all of you, how to write and calculate the obstetrical score? I hope none of you are going to do any mistakes in calculating the GTPAL or the obstetrical score now. Right? Okay. Now coming to antenatal visits. What is the ideal number of antenatal visits? Please remember, ideal number of antenatal visits always is 12 to 14. Ideal number of antenatal visits is 12 to 14. Right? Why? Because one visit should be done every 4 weeks till 28 weeks of pregnancy. Then one visit should be done every 2 weeks between 28 to 36 weeks. And then one visit should be done every week, right? At more than equal to 36 weeks. So the ideal number of antenatal visits, it comes out to be 12 to 14, right? Now, minimum number of antenatal visits as recommended by WHO and as recommended by Government of India. What is the minimum number of antenatal visits recommended by WHO and by Government of India? यासिर बेटा पहले normal questions कर लो, बाद में rarest of rare things की बाद में चिंता करेंगे, पहले common things को solve करेंगे. Right? Minimum number which is recommended by WHO is 8 and by Government of India is 4. Okay? So, according to new WHO guidelines, what is the minimum number of antenatal visits to have a positive pregnancy outcome? WHO says it has to be 8. Clear to all of you? Yes? Okay. Now, nutritional requirement in pregnancy. How much daily caloric requirement is there in pregnancy in kilocalories? Kilocalories में what is the daily caloric requirement in pregnancy? Please remember, in pregnancy, additional caloric requirement is 350 kilocalories per day. So an additional of 350 kilocalories per day is required in pregnancy. Now, in a non-pregnant female, in a sedentary female, the caloric requirement is 1700 kilocalories. बेटा ऐसा क्वेश्चन पूछा ही नहीं जाएगा सत्या कि जब वो बताए ना कि WHO या GOI, राइट? सेडेंटरी फीमेल में 1700 किलो कैलोरीज, मॉडरेट वर्कर में 2100 किलो कैलोरीज एंड हेवी वर्कर जो कि नॉन प्रेग्नेंट है उसमें 2700 किलो कैलोरीज. जब ये फीमेल्स प्रेग्नेंट होंगी तो हम ऐड कर देंगे 350 किलो कैलोरीज पर डे, राइट? ड्यूरिंग लैक्टेशन कितना एक्स्ट्रा किलो कैलोरीज चाहिए होता है? ड्यूरिंग लैक्टेशन इन द फर्स्ट मंथ, इन द फर्स्ट 6 months 600 additional kilocalories चाहिए होता है, and then between 6 to 12 months 520 kilocalories चाहिए होता है. Again I am telling you, पूरे प्रेगनेंसी में additional 350 kilocalories per day चाहिए कैलोरिक रिक्वायरमेंट. एक सेडेंटरी फीमेल की इन नॉन प्रेग्नेंट फीमेल कैलोरिक रिक्वायरमेंट है 1700 किलो कैलोरीज पर डे, मॉडरेट की 2100 एंड हेवी वर्कर की 2700. सो जब भी हमें प्रेगनेंसी में निकालना है हमें 350 किलो कैलोरीज को ऐड करना है. ड्यूरिंग लैक्टेशन कितनी एडिशनल किलो कैलोरीज चाहिए होती है? इन द फर्स्ट 6 पर डे एंड इन द 6 to 12 months 520 किलो कैलोरीज पर डे. अगर कोई पूछे ट्राइमेस्टर वाइज रिक्वायरमेंट, ट्राइमेस्टर वाइज रिक्वायरमेंट गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने दी है. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया सिंपली कहता है कि फर्स्ट ट्राइमेस्टर में कोई भी एडिशनल कैलोरिक रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं चाहिए, सेकेंड ट्राइमेस्टर में एडिशनल 200 चाहिए, थर्ड ट्राइमेस्टर में एडिशनल 400 चाहिए. आई एम रिपीटिंग, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया कहता है फर्स्ट ट्राइमेस्टर में नो एडिशनल रिक्वायरमेंट, सेकेंड ट्राइमेस्टर में 200 एंड थर्ड ट्राइमेस्टर में 400 additional kilocalories. Now your question was daily caloric requirement in pregnancy is about. अगर ये सेडेंटरी फीमेल होती तो 1700 plus 350 करते, तब हमारा आंसर आता 2050. क्या 2050 ऑप्शन में दिया है? नहीं दिया है. अगर ये मॉडरेट वर्कर है तो मॉडरेट वर्कर में 2100 plus 350 जो कि 2450 आता. क्या वो ऑप्शन में दिया है? यस दिया है. सो आई एम गोइंग टू मार्क द आंसर एज 2500 किलो कैलोरीज. एक्स्ट्रा कैलोरिक रिक्वायरमेंट ड्यूरिंग सेकेंड ट्राइमेस्टर. सेकेंड ट्राइमेस्टर जब स्पेसिफिकली पूछा जाएगा योर आंसर इज गोइंग टू बी 200 किलो कैलोरीज, राइट? एज आई टोल्ड यू, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने बताया है 200 किलो कैलोरीज सेकेंड ट्राइमेस्टर में, 400 किलो कैलोरीज थर्ड ट्राइमेस्टर में, फर्स्ट ट्राइमेस्टर में नेग्लिजिबल एक्स्ट्रा. व्हाट इज द डेली एडिशनल कैलोरिक रिक्वायरमेंट फॉर अ प्रेग्नेंट फीमेल? अब इसमें ट्राइमेस्टर वाइज नहीं पूछा, डेली कितना चाहिए होता है? एडिशनल चाहिए होता है 350 किलो कैलोरीज. बिकॉज 350 ऑप्शन में नहीं दिया है, आई एम मार्किंग द आंसर एज 300 कैलोरीज. क्लियर टू ऑल ऑफ यू? Yes. So that is how you are going to solve calories related questions in your NORCET exam. Clear? Yes. Any confusions here? No? Okay. Now, what is protein requirement in a non-pregnant female? In a non-pregnant female, 45 grams of protein is required per day. During pregnancy, in first trimester, no additional protein requirement. Second trimester में add 10 grams per day, तो 45 grams में 10 grams add हो जाएगा. And third trimester में 20 grams per day, right? Carbohydrate requirement during pregnancy. In a non-pregnant female, the carbohydrate requirement is 130 grams per day. During pregnancy, it becomes 175 grams per day. Very important is iodine requirement in pregnancy. बहुत टाइम ये क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है. Iodine requirement in pregnancy is 250 micrograms per day. बहुत टाइम ये क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है, कैल्शियम रिक्वायरमेंट इन प्रेगनेंसी. Calcium requirement in pregnancy is 1000 milligrams per day. And during lactation, it is 1200 milligrams per day. So in pregnancy, it is 1000 milligrams per day. And during lactation, it is 1200 milligrams per day. Next questions come on weight gain in pregnancy. Right? Now, normal weight gain in obese female in entire pregnancy is, in an obese female question पूछा गया बेटा, obese females में the weight gain has to be 5 to 7 kgs. So answer is going to be 7 kgs. Right? एक normal female का नहीं पूछा है. अगर आपसे टोटल वेट गेन पूछा जाए प्रेगनेंसी में, सो टोटल वेट गेन इन प्रेगनेंसी इज 11 to 12 kgs. विलियम्स कहता है एग्जैक्ट वेट गेन इन प्रेगनेंसी इज 12.5 kgs. राइट? Weight gain in pregnancy depends on many factors, but it does not depend on smoking. मदर के स्मोक करने से वेट गेन्ड इन प्रेगनेंसी पे देयर इज नो इफेक्ट. राइट? वेट गेन ऑलवेज डिपेंड्स, जो हम रिकमेंडेड वेट गेन कहते हैं, रिकमेंडेड वेट गेन डिपेंड्स ऑन द BMI ऑफ द पेशेंट बिफोर शी बिकेम प्रेग्नेंट. अगर आपकी पेशेंट आइडियल वेट है, उसका नॉर्मल वेट है या ओवर वेट है, तो टोटल वेट गेन जो हम उसको एडवाइस करते हैं 11 to 15 kgs. अगर वो अंडर वेट है, then we advise her to gain 12.5 to 18 kgs. And अगर वो obese है, then we advise 5 to 9 kgs. So ideally हम कितना एडवाइस करते हैं? 11 to 15 kgs. अंडरवेट है तो 12.5 to 18 kgs, and obese है तो 5 to 9 kgs. Right? And all these questions have been asked in your exam. They asked you कि एक obese pregnant female में कितना weight gain? As I said, 5 to 9 kgs. 5 to 9 kgs में 7 बीच में आता है, तो 7 kg becomes the answer. Weight gain in pregnancy is related to all except, please remember, weight gain does not depend on smoking. A 28-year-old primigravida with pre-pregnancy BMI 30 kg per meter square. That means she is obese. What is the recommended weight gain? As I said, recommended weight gain is 5 to 9 kgs. Over here, it is 5 to 7 kgs. Clear to all of you? Have you all understood everything related to weight gain in pregnancy? Yes? Okay. So now again, I'll continue with your class. For today, this is what I wanted to teach you. Right? I'm going to continue with your class probably tomorrow. Same time pe we will continue. Yeah, day after tomorrow, I will continue with the class. Right? Probably it will be tomorrow only that I'm going to continue your class. And we are going to complete the rest of the topics. Some of the topics, again, I'm going to revise with you tomorrow. Right? So all the best. Keep on revising your MCQs. Keep on revising your notes. Notes के बाहर कभी भी कुछ भी नहीं आएगा. Whatever I have taught you, उसी में से questions आएंगे. Just keep revising your notes and keep practicing MCQs. Okay? So take care all of you. Good night. Have a nice sleep, or should I say have a nice preparation time. All those who are early risers can sleep now and you can get up tomorrow morning and prepare. All those who are night owls can continue to their study. Take care, bacho. Love you all.